All right, so we're back. We're going to talk about the growth of HYROX. It feels like they've been just adding more and more races every season because of the growth and popularity. But let's start with the big topic on social media going on right now, which is London. The London race happened this past weekend. I'm sure a lot of you guys online saw a lot of the controversy. I know we saw it and we kind of all texted each other. We're like, we have to talk about this on the group chat. So let's go through a little bit about what happened in London, the whole debacle, the kind of fallout of that. And Taylor, you want to talk about?
I mean, I was like flustered when I saw that post because I was like, man, if I was in that situation where that happened to me during my race, I'd be so upset. But I was thinking about it actually when I was driving one day, and I was like, for most, I don't know if they care that much. I think it's the people that are competing and the people that are like really trying to go for time. But if the time is something they're going for, then yes, of course you'd be very upset. But if you're not caught up on time, you're trying to survive it, and you're almost like, oh, I get to rest. Almost it might be a welcome thing. But
well, in backtracking a little bit, the whole controversy surrounding it is there was a huge line to get into the wall ball station. I'm talking like
40 minutes
wrapping around. It was like up to an hour, some people said.
Wow.
Waiting in line during your race to get to the wall ball station. And yes, they oversold it. They had too many people in each heat, so they created a bottleneck. But the biggest issue that they,
not enough judges,
they admitted was they did not have enough judges for that station. And it was towards the end of the day, so a lot of the judges that might have been, on the floor, their shift ended. They didn't get enough to replace those, so they had a bunch of empty stations, but there was only X amount of judges, so they could only let in a certain people at a time. So you had, and this is mostly for the doubles, the women's doubles, and the solo women as well. So they were waiting in line in a queue, as the Brits say, in a queue, and they were just basically standing there waiting for their turn to get in. And I actually saw a post about somebody who was in the line. They said that they obviously kind of accounted for that with their time. And then they also reached out to each individual competitor and they said, hey, we're going to give you 50% off for whatever race you want to do in that region. So if they're in London, so a European region. And if the race they want to do is sold out, contact HYROX directly so they can kind of make an exception for that. So, good on them for trying to kind of get ahead of this PR nightmare, so to speak. But at the same time, that's what we're kind of finding out with, the big growth in this, this thing called HYROX, is that they are growing a little bit too fast without these systems in place to kind of avoid these sorts of things from happening, which I'm assuming is going to happen more and more often unless they change something.
Yeah, I think it's just like the growth and trying to maintain the quality, I think is even the challenge that every business, every entity like this is going to face. And I think they're facing it right now. Hopefully they make the right decision and not become just another commercialized, business-oriented, profit-driven, purely type of thing. Because I think if it becomes that, I think they really lose the I would say the elite and the competitive division part. I think they're just going to appeal to the masses, and of course it's going to be fun and all that. But I think they really could pull off both. I think if they just put some thought and just care into it, and maybe sacrifice a little profit, maybe in the short term, I think they could do well with it. But it's good that they did that. I think they should have been a full refund. I think 50% I don't think is enough. They really should have given full refunds, but that's my personal opinion about it.
I have a question on the whole competitive scene of HYROX. If they lose the competitive scene, do you guys see HYROX having a good future? Will it last without the competitive scene?
What do you mean by competitive scene?
Like if the real competitive athletes leave the sport of HYROX.
You're talking about the Elite 15?
The Elite 15, that whole thing. If they leave, do they continue to have a good future, HYROX?
I'm going to say no. Only because the owner, CEO of HYROX has come out and said, we want to be an Olympic sport someday. So if you basically lose those Elite 15, right, or that whole category, then how are you going to become an Olympic sport, right? Because you are basically saying, okay, these are the people that are best of the best in the world. and then we're just completely taking that, division out. How do you then justify trying to bring it to the Olympics?
Right.
Yeah, I think from that point of view of trying to get to the Olympics, you need that division. You need those athletes. But for profits, I don't know necessarily. I think that there are things out there that there is no sport piece to it, or elite sport piece to it, and they are making a lot of money, and maybe even, I don't know, more money. And so I don't know. I think time will tell. But I think wall balls need to go. I have a pretty strong opinion about this. I don't think they could really pull it off with wall balls in place because it just doesn't make sense as much logistically as well as from a judging standpoint. Because having judged it, it requires like 5 to 8 times more judges, judges than the other stations.
Because as a judge for the wall ball station, you're assigned 2 people, right?
Yeah.
You're assigned 2 people versus, I'm assuming the other ones, you kind of just have, maybe 4 or 5 judges kind of roaming around that specific station, right?
Yeah, and I think the judging qualifications and the standard for how you become a wall ball judge, it has to be a little bit more strict, a little more. You have to qualify more because I saw some of the judges that were put in place, and I don't know if they really understood exercise that well. I don't think that's the criteria. I don't think that's the prerequisite to be a wall ball. But wall ball judge, I think you do need to understand like angles. You need to understand the movement, and you do need to know what a good squat looks like before I think you end up judging that because your eyes are not. I can honestly have a lot of experience with squats, but when I was judging 2 people, down on the ground and that low and whatever, and all the things that were going on, it's a lot. It's a lot, and so you could easily miss. I was getting yelled at, and I don't think I've never been yelled at that much in a 6-hour period in my life. Yeah.
So do you think this issue kind of is showing the cracks of HYROX's growth and that they're like kind of losing a little bit of that balance between having a quality event versus just launching a lot of heats with a lot of people in it?
Yeah, I don't know about cracks, but I see it as a business, right? And when you're talking about any even small business that started, I'm sure that's how they kind of started, as like a small business, and they probably kind of consider it a small business still. No, probably not. Is that you're going into a model, you have a business plan, and you have all these things in place, and you had all these exercises that you thought through, but you don't really know until you actually are in business. And that's the same thing for any business, is that you have a business plan, but almost always you don't end up, you end up having to kind of evolve and change and update and modify things. And so they're going to have to do that. They're not going to be able to stick to this exact thing to be able to reach the higher levels of growth in business, and I think they're going to have to adjust. And I think the wall ball is one of those things that made sense back then, but they realize I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it's an exercise that could remain if they want to become an Olympic sport. Wow. I don't know if it could remain if they want to continue to not have controversy.
It's a big statement.
I think they're talking about technology, and I don't think so. I think technology will break down as well. And if you have one, like Olympic sport, there's not all these sensors of 50, sensors, and there's 50, 60, people going all at once. Olympic sport, you're not doing that. They're competing in the smaller groups, and their sensors are very exact, very calculated, and so there's not as much room for error. But there's just way too much room for error, and I think they need to I think technology is not gonna be able to accommodate this. I think they need to replace the exercise to something else. Yeah.
Now, how do you see? Let's say they keep wall balls in. How do you see the future of HYROX continue as it is now compared to something big that back in the day like Spartan race? So you guys remember Spartan race, like Spartan race, Tough Mudder, whatever, like mud runs, like that was like the big thing back in like the mid 2010s to late 2010s before it kind of started dying off a little bit. Do you see that happening too?
Yeah. Wow. Last time I was really excited about something was probably Spartan race. No, it was CrossFit. Then I went to the level 1 course, and I did get certified. But then I did lose a lot of my interest at the level 1 course. And then Spartan too. Spartan, when it was just starting to really explode, I got on it. We mobilized a team of 126 people. I mean, we really went all out because I thought it would. But then what happened with every single one is that I think when it became corporate money, profit, business, they started signing deals with big brands and that kind of stuff. they could pivot, and I think they could really grow in quality as well as quantity, I guess, and profits. Or I think you go a little too much into the profit part, and it becomes too much about business and making money. And I think if they could find a nice balance, and I hope HYROX does, because I really like HYROX, and I think that it has a great future. I think they could really have the best of both worlds. They could grow even exponentially from this position right here, and in today's profit levels. I mean, I think they said something about over $500 million or something is what they're generating, in such a short amount of time too. So I think they really could. I think it's in the infancy stages, but I think with every business, when there's a lot of money coming in and you're making a lot, you could start, it gets watered down, it gets compromised, and I hope it doesn't, because I really, really do like HYROX. But I think I think time is the only thing that'll tell. Can right now, as it goes, can it become an Olympic sport as it is right now? I mean, I don't think so, because there's just too much subjectivity. Even, I think they need to even standardize even more, and even the the venues in different cities, it almost has to become standard. The rock zone, the laps, all that stuff has to become very standardized. I think for it to become truly exact, And so, there's a lot more. You compare it to like the marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks and the triathlons, but those are pretty exact. I would say triathlon similar, because you have like transition zones and all that stuff. But I think HYROX will have to refine even more, standardize more, and change out some of maybe a couple of the exercises to something else.
See, my viewpoint for HYROX has always kind of been, and this was back when I was kind of doing more CrossFit, is I don't think it can survive with just being the same race at every venue. And after having done 2, I still feel a little bit that way. Only because when you make a comparison to marathons, right? Yes, it's the same distance, but you're running a different course at every race that you go to if you're traveling, right? So my initial thought is, okay, you have a bunch of local marathons, half marathons, whatever. Their course always stays the same, right? With the exception of maybe like every 5 or 6 years they might change for traffic reasons, whatever. Why not do what USA Running does and have your majors kind of be their own different race, and have all the local ones be the original HYROX or the same race. So if you take like New York City, for example, if you were to make that, because it's such a big race, you make that a major, that's the New York City HYROX, right? That's its own major. You take Seoul, Korea, that's the Seoul HYROX, right? So it incentivizes people to travel to those big races, right? So you have, maybe some of the similar stations, but you have a couple of distinct things that make that race special, other than just the venue in the city, right? I think that would be so much better in the mass market appeal to just the general public, especially people that are already in HYROX, than just kind of advertising like, hey, it's the same race at every area, and you can basically be prepared ahead of time. But if you already have that in mind, where okay, New York City, instead of wall balls, like we have 100 cows on the eco bike to finish in place of the sleds, like we're doing like devil's presses, right? Something like that. Something that makes it different and more appealing to actually make it incentivizing for maybe other people to travel to that area.
I think that's a great idea. I think
even for Worlds, like Worlds, they have it once a year, but it's always the same race, right?
So it's like you have a specific time for that major, would be a thing, because I think one of the biggest draws to HYROX is the fact that no matter what race you're at, you can almost try to, beat your old time.
Sure.
Like that's
what the local
challenge.
races are for.
Yeah.
You can almost make like the regional races, like we're going to DC, that's considered a regional race, make that like a different race, where like, you might still be going for a time, but like that is the ultimate time that you want to go for, right?
It's tricky. Like I don't know. I don't know what.
I just think there needs to be a little bit more diversity in the races if they want to survive.
Where do you get that idea from? Is that like a CrossFit thing, or is
I think most of it comes from CrossFit, because every competition is different. You have to be a little bit more trained towards that specific, event or competition that you're doing. But again, that's right now, as HYROX stands, that's not what they want to do. They want to be as universal as possible. They want to have everybody know what they're going to get into ahead of time, other than maybe like equipment differences and whatnot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think because Rai has history with CrossFit.
Yeah.
I think that's the angle, and that's kind of like what he kind of thinks about. But I don't know. Like, I feel like with that, I think it's good to have different special like events, you know, like different competitions. But I think HYROX and that whole, you know, the same exact thing, I think that is their biggest thing. And I think if you take that away and if you like diversify it or you change it around or whatever, then I don't know. I feel like it might be exciting for the elite. You know, those guys are doing and those girls are doing a ton of races a year, so it might make things more exciting. The general public, I almost feel like you may lose the volume of participants and sign up people. From a business standpoint, I think I'll lose business. And I can't see HYROX doing that. I think, you know, let's say they had some special crazy, you know, competition or whatever, some event, maybe like a very special thing, then I think, but I think if you make it into that where like, all right, Boston, New York, and Chicago, or is it Chicago? I don't know what the majors are in London. Yeah. The marathons, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that,
Is it?
there's like how many of them? 5, 6?
Five or six.
5 or 6. And so I think that works because of that. But if you think about it, probably every New York is the same route, I would think, right? They don't really deviate from that. That would make runners probably really upset.
Every venue depends on the size of the actual lap. Like London was just one single lap.
Right. So what I'm saying is London's always that route.
No, that's first time.
Oh, they changed.
That
It
was a different venue. It was the first time. At least I think
no,
it was
no,
a
I'm talking
different
about
venue.
marathons.
Oh,
Yeah,
marathons.
yeah.
Okay,
So if,
I'm on HYROX still.
Yeah, like the different marathons. I'm assuming they keep the exact route.
They do.
They do, right? New York's exactly the same. And so I almost feel like that. It's like, think about why somebody, even the competitive ones, because they want to make sure they try to beat their old time. That's the whole challenge of wanting to do it over and over and over, right? The general public, I think they love predictable. I think the reason why CrossFit doesn't have as much as appeal as it probably could is that they don't have as much standardized things that people make it predictable for people, right? And I know this from a management standpoint. When I don't post the workouts, I mean, unless your people are hardcore, they're scared. They want to know exactly what the workout is before they show up, right? And so I think HYROX, I think needs that in order to have the volume and this whole mass appeal that they have right now that's making them explode exponentially year to year. And so, I mean, that's my take on it, but I think it's, you know, I think they should have different like special fun competitions where, you know, you can sign up and be like, you know, 3,000 meter row, you know, just like test out the different exercises, you know, what's the, I don't know, how many wall balls unbroken? Who's the record holder for that? You
Right.
know,
Well, I think that's
stuff like
also why they encourage affiliates to kind of host their own competitions, kind of supplement as that.
I think those are fun. I think that's kind of fun, and I think to have like, you know, record holders for different things, pretty cool, you know. But yeah, I don't know if they'll make it too, you know, diverse as far as I don't know if it makes sense from a business. If I was an owner of HYROX, I don't know if I would mess with that as much.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit into kind of how HYROX became kind of where it is now. Like let's do a little brainstorming. Like what things do we think that we've seen in terms of, you know, as competitors on social media or whatever, what has been driving this huge growth that they've been seeing in the last only like 2-3 years? Like I remember in 2023 seeing, you know, New York, still not even, or maybe it was 2022. I don't know. It was before we even like knew what HYROX was. They released tickets and it was like April, and they still weren't sold out yet. And then next thing you know, TikTok, Instagram, all these influencers are doing these races, and now it's sold out within like the first hour.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You know, so like what else do we think has been driving this huge like mass appeal to, you know, something like HYROX versus, you know, other competitions or stuff like that?
It's coordinated fits.
The doubles?
Yeah,
The
it's the coordinating,
fits?
you know, that I think is huge for the people who aren't as into, even the competitive ones, I think they love to do that. And then, yeah, they hit up pretty much every category. Like, guys partnered up and let's go kill it, right? Or women, real crazy intense, right? And then you got the doubles mix. You get all the couples involved. You got dad and daughter or whatever. Like it's just they hit up solo, pro, open division. I mean adaptive. I mean they got so many divisions that really hit up everyone. But I think the main thing is the fact that, again, I think they advertise is that, I don't know if they advertise is that it's low skill things that they're doing.
Yeah, well, I think their tagline is a race for everybody.
Yeah.
So a very low entry skill point per se. It's predictable. You're doing the same thing every race, so you can, load up your training to, cater to whenever your race is, right?
And they just know how to create vibe. I mean, to be like only a couple of years old,
Yeah.
to be able to create that like energy at an event, that's impressive. If you ask me, that's not easy to do, and they just know how to do it. They really know how to tap into the psychology and sociology of.
I think their social media team is awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, they post some great content, like a lot of motivating stuff. I know they work with a lot of different influencers to kind of promote races and obviously promote the influencer themselves. And I think for the most part, I think social media has really been the driving force behind, this growth that HYROX has seen in the last 2 years or so. I mean, they just keep adding races.
Yeah.
And, I think other things that we talked about, like the low skill, that's obviously a huge one compared to something like CrossFit where, you have a lot of different disciplines kind of all wrapped up into one. And I think another thing that a lot of people may overlook would be maybe like the incentive to not only do it with like a friend or a family member, but like you get to travel to like a different city, even like across like to a different continent, and you're still doing the same race as somebody here back at home.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing with Bella and even Sophie now is that you just sign up for the race. I try to sign up for 2 every weekend. That's a HYROX weekend. And then just because I think that one race, an hour and a half hour or whatever, is just not enough to travel and do all that for that 1 hour, 1.5 hour. And then the other thing is I always combine judging and volunteering so I could get that event ticket for the future, as well as, I mean, look around. Like we're going to Anaheim this weekend, and Sophie wanted to hit up a national park, so we compete on one Sunday, and then Monday we're going to try to do a little tour before we come back home on Tuesday. And Vegas the same thing. We're going to do Vegas, and then on Monday we're going to try to hit up Grand Canyon for one day, and then come back on Tuesday. So just like to combine that and then get a fitness thing in. Leading up to it, you're training hard, so you're staying in shape. I think it's just a great thing, and it's just I think the HYROX itself, the concept itself, and the programming itself really hits up all the systems too, like good amount of systems. I think running is running, and cycling is cycling, even triathlon is triathlon. But I think HYROX really keeps you overall relatively like well-rounded, and so I really like that. And so
and it's a lot like being at the venue, like it's a lot of fun.
It is, yeah.
Like the vibes are always like super
Positive,
high.
yeah.
Like it feels like you're at a major sporting event. Like you're not at like a local competition in a gym, or like something like a small kind of like activity hall. Like they're renting out these huge convention centers, these huge venues, and there's a ton of people packed in there.
Yeah.
And like it feels like you are in like this big major competition. I think that's like that vibe kind of, the vibes, that's what people are going for, right? And that's what social media has kind of been almost like not exploiting, but like advertising for these races. It's always, those highlight videos of like, just super high energy, all these people cheering you on, highlights of, your race and stuff like that. I think that's been like one of the biggest contributors to this growth is just the whole vibe of being at a HYROX race and participating.
And the medal you get afterwards too, the
Well,
patch.
that's just for regionals.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the medal's just for regionals, but you get the patch.
Yeah.
I think the inclusivity thing I think is huge. It's like they're so international, but they're also so embracing of just different ethnicities and race and all that. I just think that's been a huge thing for HYROX as well. Because if you go to a HYROX event, even international, like it's a very mixed group of people. It's not one race, one ethnicity. I was just checking out Seoul's video, Seoul HYROX, Yeah, I couldn't even recognize it. So it was so diverse. You know, so many different types of people there. Obviously, any U.S. event, it's very diverse, and I like that. I think there's a lot of physical things and physical related things that are not as inclusive. I think a lot of sports are not as inclusive. A lot of big time sports are not. And so the fact that HYROX is coming in and they came in and really just opened and embraced all different kinds of people, I think that's a really cool thing.
I also think because of HYROX, like the whole hybrid athlete thing is on the rise on social media.
Yeah, even though they're made fun of a lot.
They are.
You know, but I think that's just hating, man. That's just not, I don't know why you would do that. That's silly.
I think it's really appealing though to be really strong, really fast, like everything combined into one. I think that's really appealing. So I think that's another reason.
It's so funny. I'm not even necessarily a full HYROX athlete or whatever, but you know, I get a little irked when I see little posts of people like bashing HYROX. Yeah. I'm like, what? And I'm looking at the video. I'm like, what do you got to be bragging about? Yeah. You know, you don't even, you're not that impressive. You know, like it's just. But I just think that people love to hate on things that they don't know and aren't familiar with or they feel threatened with. Yeah.
So, given the fact that we had the controversy with London, all like the disappointment with that event and future events, why would you, if you had somebody in front of you that you're trying to convince to sign up for a race, what category would you recommend them go into, and how would you kind of, what bullet points would you give them to, tell them that it's still worth it to sign up? Like, what would you explain to that person?
I'd say straight to doubles.
Doubles.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth for most people, unless you don't care, you don't whatever, you just want to have fun, just high five the whole time, just hang out and friends. All right, really. But I just think that you should definitely, to make it worthwhile, money, everything, time, energy, just doubles. Start with doubles, and then I think soon after, sign up for that solo. I think that's the way to go, and then start mixing up doubles and solo. But I think to just I think that's completely unnecessary for 99% of the people out there. Yeah, I mean that's what I would recommend, straight to just regular doubles.
Yeah, I mean I've told some of my friends, I'm like, a lot of them want to get fit, they want to get in shape and all that, and then you can kind of use HYROX as kind of like a motivator. So they sign up 3 months in advance, and then now it's like they have to get in shape. Right now they have to get in, go to the gym and all that stuff. So I use it as that sort of thing. If you want to convince other people to join HYROX, like you have to get in shape after you sign up. You know what I mean? So that's what
because it hits up multiple systems. So if somebody's trying to get fit, I think it's a great way to get fit, because you're hitting up cardiovascular, muscular endurance, strength. I mean, a lot of that stuff is really being hit and touched on, right? It's not like the other things. I think if you're just getting into, again, like running is a perfect example, then you're just good at running. I feel like that's very one-dimensional, right? And so I think if you recommend HYROX, they're really going to get pretty good at a lot of other things, especially if they stick to it, they get to one, and maybe do a couple. Man, I can't see why your body would not change and your fitness would just go through the roof. Yeah.
Now, what about the person or people that, maybe they have a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-esteem issues. They see these videos on social media where there's all these glistening bodies and, super ripped and, maybe a little bit even intimidating to those kind of people. How would you encourage them to kind of look past that and still, take the jump, so to speak, and, sign up for HYROX?
Well, I always tell you, I say, just like people always think that marathoners are like really fit and really thin and whatever. No, you go to a marathon, you're like, huh? You're confused, because you sometimes look at people and you're like, wow, I cannot believe that person's going to be running 26 miles and going to finish it, maybe even get a great time. Right? I think body type and how much you sweat and how cut you are or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that, like I've seen, go to HYROX. I'm a perfect example. I look pretty darn fit, but when I'm in HYROX, my time's not that great so far. And so to be, I don't think you can't judge performance based on just appearance, right? And so I'd say just try it, give it a shot. For all you know, you might be amazing at it. And then in just due time, your body will change. And the thing that you're kind of like self-conscious about usually is the physical appearance. That's going to change. But it takes time and effort and, put some sacrifice and energy into it, right? Yeah. And so I just say take a step, bold step of just faith, and just go in there, grab a couple people and friends, and sign up together. Maybe partner with somebody who is a little fitter than you, who doesn't mind, staying back with you and kind of showing you the way, and who's done it before. I'm doing that this weekend with my brother-in-law, and so I'm not doing a solo. I'm just doing the doubles with him, and he's never signed up for really anything in his life that's physical, and so
He's been training?
Yeah, he said he's been training, and so I'm kind of excited. He said he's been running very consistently, not necessarily at the fastest pace, but we don't care. I'm like, the fact that he signed up, he's following through with it, and he's almost 45 years old, and he's going to do this, has been, just I'm really happy for him, and I think it'd be pretty cool to finish this with him. Maybe annually, if he wants to do it in Anaheim, I go there and do doubles with him, every year. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell them there's literally people that have done it in a wheelchair.
Right.
So if you have legs and arms, you can do the race.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's not a requirement to be shirtless or in sports bra. That's just social media.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up. Now, let's put on our lenses in terms of if we were, HYROX CEO, going back to the whole London thing and maybe races going forward. Give me one thing that you would change, anything about the race itself, the venue setup, even though it's different every race, what you would change going forward to maybe resolve this issue.
I mean, I think we kind of talked about it already. I think you said getting rid of wall balls. I guess the question is, what would we replace wall balls with?
Right.
That's going to be a tough one. I think another thing that they can do is fully reimburse those people that got their times killed by the hour wait it was to get into the queue or get into the station. So what else do you think?
I'd say they gotta still maintain that core model they probably started on. I know that with every business that when it's begun, you have this business plan, and you have the passion and drive to really maintain quality and all that. I think most businesses and business owners go into it with that intent. But of course, when money, success, growth, busyness, all that stuff really starts happening, it's hard to maintain that. So I hope HYROX is able to maintain a level of that that could really sustain them on the qualitative level. I think the other thing is just making sure that you do not oversell. I think that's going to be the big thing. I think if they start overselling but still hiking up prices, I think that's how you are going to lose people. Even if the demand is there, I think, for instance, for me, it'd be hard. If the prices keep climbing but the quality seems to be diminishing or decreasing, then it'd be hard to kind of justify taking it as seriously as I have been taking it. And that's what happened to me with Spartan races, is that I was very excited. We did a bunch. We mobilized a big group, but then I realized it was just getting sloppy. Not only the obstacles were getting extremely sloppy, they were overselling. So it was just destroying everything. They were charging crazy amounts of money for really sloppy races, and I completely lost interest. And so I really hope that HYROX really pivots, and it seems like they're really trying to correct right away. And so I hope that continues, and I want to continue to be involved. I even say that I still want that flag somehow, at some point, and just keep training hard for it. And so, those two things I would say.
Yeah, for me, I think it would be just putting on more events in the very similar region to where they already have. Given the fact, especially here in the Northeast, yes, they added Boston, but we still only have DC, New York, Boston. I know there's plenty of places in Philly that can host it. I know there's plenty of places even in Jersey that could host it. I think they need to add more races, and I'm not just saying in the Northeast, but I'm saying even in other places where they might only have one race of the year that's anywhere close to them, to avoid kind of this huge demand overselling.
Right.
Yeah, we got a lot of stadiums around here too.
Yeah.
Indoor too.
Stadium's cool. Yeah.
They have started doing stadiums now.
Yeah.
Phoenix is the first NFL stadium that's going to be hosting a HYROX race.
Cancun. So they have a cruise.
We'll see how Phoenix goes. I don't know. Maybe MetLife will be next.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it for today. Hopefully DC is not as much of a shit show as London, and hopefully we have some fun at that. Taylor's going to be doing a couple races before then. We'll catch you guys next time.